Hi. Thank you for attending today's reading. Let's begin. The time I royally effed up a booty call before I start, let me give a fair warning. This story is super cringy and may be difficult to read without a severe case of lemon face. This all took place many years ago, but it remains in my heart of hearts as a reminder that I'm very fortunate to now be happily married to a wonderful person who can see past my peculiarities. So I'm a hotshot 20-something who spent his high school career as a nerdy loser with two friends that barely managed to lose his virginity to a slutty girl who ended up cheating on him after 2 years of being together. After moving to night shift, I started getting attention from some of the girls at work because, as I was starting to realize and allow to go straight to my fat head, I'm actually a fairly attractive person. Physically. At least I got close to a female coworker, and after some time we started hooking up, but my feeble monkey brain started thinking this wasn't good enough and it was time to become a fuckboy and sleep around. So even though this wonderful girl was miraculously giving me her time and affection, I decided to break it off with her and search out new holsters to rest my pistol in. More on her later. My first target was a tiny red-headed girl. I had a thing for red hair, who had started flirting with me in the smoke shack. There were a few occasions outside of work where we hung out amongst other coworkers, but nothing intimate ever happened. In fact, we had never so much as hugged or held hands. I had yet to realize that in the world of hooking up, these steps are typically skipped. Just to give you an idea of how inept I was. So out of the blue she starts texting me one night on our day off while I'm up late playing Red Dead Redemption on my PS3. It started casually enough and she eventually asks what I'm currently doing. I tell her I'm just playing video games and texting her. She then says something along the lines of, "You should come play at my house," to which I reply, "Do you have an Xbox or PlayStation?" "I have both." She responds, "I don't have any consoles at my house." I respond, "I can bring my PS3. I only have single-player games, but we can take turns." She replies, "Sure." I ask her what game to bring and she just replies, "Just bring whatever." The astute amongst you are already seeing how stupid I am, but trust me, it gets worse. I hurriedly pack up my PS3 and copy of RDR and drive to her house, which is about 35 to 40 minutes from where I lived. It's already somewhere past midnight by the time I arrive, and she greets me at the door. Me with my PS3 in tow under one arm. I proceed to set it up on her small TV and ask her if she wants to go first. She tells me she doesn't play video games, so I ask if she just wants to watch me play. She responds with, "Sure," and so I load up my saved game and begin playing. I attempt to make it as interesting as possible by explaining I had just made it to Mexico and attempting to explain the plot. She just looked bored and tired and not really interested. I could sense things were maybe getting a little awkward, so I ask if I should just turn the game off. She says, "No, you can keep playing." I was then interrupted by the sound of a baby crying, which I had no idea was even in the house. And she proceeded to pick up a maybe 4 to 6 month old boy who had been sleeping on a recliner in the living room. This took me completely by surprise and I said, "Oh, you have a baby?" She said, "It's my sister's kid, I'm just babysitting." I thought to myself, why did she invite me over if she's babysitting this kid? This was where I really felt awkward and didn't know what to do. I started feeling hungry and asked if she was too. She said she wasn't, but we could go get something if I wanted. So we loaded up the baby into her car and she drove us to Del Taco and I got a burrito. I ate the burrito after we got back to her place and asked if she wanted to watch me play some more. She said okay, so I played a little bit more before my stomach started feeling awful and I promptly got up to use the restroom. I knew what I really needed was to take a dump, but fearing that doing so at her house would make me look bad. Yes. I still hadn't realized I was past the point of no return here. I decided to just drain the main vein and make some excuse to leave before I couldn't hold back the floodgates any longer. Now the best part. While standing in front of the toilet, I attempt to begin urinating, but the pressure in my bowels has built up such that it needed some release just to let the stream begin. So I attempt to stealthily let out a fart. Don't want so seem like the type of sick animal that would fart in a girl's house. And instead end up sharting. It was pure liquid diarrhea. Even better, the stream of urine had already begun, so I was standing there with a case of mud butt frozen in place, staring at my pee hitting the toilet I had just failed to shit into. I don't know how familiar you might be with the pain of forcing yourself to stop peeing and shitting at the same time, but I can tell you it's most unpleasant. I quickly threw my pants to my ankles, spun around, and attempted to shit my soul out as quietly as possible while holding back tears from the gut-wrenching pain of stopping nature's most essential process, as they were never intended. I could see that my underwear was already wet with diarrhea and had to clean some off my thigh and her toilet seat upon standing up. There was no hope for my underwear. The best I could do was stuff some toilet paper between my butt cheeks and pray she wouldn't pick up on the smell. After finishing up, I was attempting to mentally prepare a game plan to get out as quickly as possible when she tells me some guy has been texting her and he's outside watching her house and asking who's over there with her. I ask who this guy is and she tells me some crazy guy who's been stalking her and won't leave her alone. In hindsight, this might have been an excuse to get me out of her house, but it definitely didn't make the situation any less unpleasant. With my butt cheeks clenching the toilet paper between them tightly, I hastily packed up my PS3 and made my way to the front door. For whatever reason, she motioned like she was going to hug me, but I declined, not wanting to get close enough for her to smell my shitty drawers. Loaded my stuff in the car and drove home screaming at myself for being an idiot for the entirety of the 40-minute drive home. There's a happy ending to this story. However, this being the moment I decided the fuckboy lifestyle was indeed not for me. I began talking to the girl mentioned earlier in the story again, and we ended up dating, and long story short, we're now happily married with a newborn baby girl. I consider this whole ordeal a pretty clear message from the universe or God or whatever you want to call it, that I most certainly should have never gone over to that girl's house, and honestly, I'd say I got what I deserved. So yeah, that's one of the most embarrassing stories of my life laid bare for Jarl to enjoy. Hope your teeth and cheeks don't hurt too bad from cringing and laughing so hard. End of story. That is all for today. If you want to support my automated channel, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. See you tomorrow.